Hello and welcome to Larry Has Opinions. The other day I was watching Fit to be Read and he gave me the idea for this video. I've picked 10 titles of books that I've read over the years, and 5 would be among the best titles that I can think of, and 5 would be the most terrible ones. I've tried to be as unbiased as possible when it comes to whether I liked the book or not, but I've also looked at not just whether the title sounds nice or seems nice or bad, but also whether it fits the story or it misrepresents it. So let's get started. The first amazing title I picked for today is Atonement by Ian McEwan. This also happens to be a book that I really loved, but the title really fits the book perfectly. It's incredibly punchy, only one word. And initially, as you get into the book, which is historical fiction, it might not necessarily be very obvious why the title is what it is and where it comes from. And as you finish the book, it makes complete sense. And the book is, or the ending of the book is as punchy as the title itself. The second amazing title I picked is Wuthering Heights. And I mean, wuthering is already a word that no one would ever use in their everyday life. And it's just so iconic as the book itself. I like this book, not necessarily one of my favorite books ever, but I think the title is so evocative and really fits the story really well. It just gives this vibe of stormy nights and quarrels in some English moors in the countryside. I just think it's just perfection. The third title that I picked is for a book that I didn't necessarily like that much. I thought it was okay, but given all the hype around this book, I was very much in the minority, and that's The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. So even though I didn't love this book, I think the title is absolutely amazing because this is a story about two sisters and they get separated and they go down very different paths. And I think this title, The Vanishing Half, just embodies that story with the two sisters getting split up and having these very different perspectives on their lives that I think it really suits the story really well. I just hope the book impressed me as much as the title did. The next title I picked is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This is a book that, again, I liked. I didn't love it as much as some other people seem to. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't necessarily very memorable. But the title is incredibly memorable. It's one of those titles you would never forget. And again, I think if you've read the book, you will see it really makes sense in the context of the story, both from a physical perspective in terms of things that happen in the book, as well as metaphorically in terms of all the issues that are represented in the book. So again, I think this is such a clever title for this book. And lastly, I picked World Without End by Ken Follett. This is another historical fiction book, and it's part of his Kingsbridge trilogy. And the title really embodies this sense of timelessness and doom, like biblical doom, if you like, around the story, and this sort of something that a preacher would just call out in a church, in a cathedral in this case. And I really think it's really perfect for the story. And now let's move on to my 5 terrible titles. The first one I picked is maybe not one of my favorite books, but pretty close, really up there. And it's Station 11. Station 11 seems such a silly and underwhelming title for such an amazing book. This is about a pandemic that kills off 99% of the world population. And Station 11 is such a understated title. I couldn't even remember what it was from. I had to go look it up again, and it's because of the name of the comic books that is featured in the story, and that reminded me. But I even had forgotten where the title came from. And to me, that is just a perfect sign that it's not a good title. I'm sorry. I don't know why they picked it. Okay, the next title that I picked is a terrible title in translation, and it's The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. I think the original title, Notre Dame de Paris, which is the name of the cathedral in Paris, is way more fitting to the story, way more suitable and not misleading like the English title is. The English title seems to suggest that the story revolves around Quasimodo That's not really the case. He's not even the main character of the story, so the title really does not make any sense to me, and that's why it's on this list. The next one I picked is Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. For some reason, this title reminds me of some YA romance books or something like that, when it's really classic hard sci-fi, and Rendezvous is from the kind of space rocket denomination of when two spaceships meet. That's a rendezvous. Rama is the name of this object that enters the solar system, and therefore these astronauts are trying to meet. It's just that for some reason, to me, it seems like it's just not fitting. It's just incredibly factual, and at the same time incredibly misleading because it doesn't really embody the spirit of the story, if it makes sense. The next one is another bad title in translation, and it's The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. The Memory Police as a title seems to suggest some kind of thrillery, action-packed dystopian book, almost akin to 1984 or something like that, I don't know. And it really seems to misrepresent the story and the vibes and the spirit of the story. The original title sounds more like Secret Crystallization or something like that. I don't speak Japanese, but from what I gather, that's what it sort of means. And I feel like that really is much closer to the spirit of this more somber and quiet story where things just disappear and crystallize in a way. So I really feel like the original title, which is also, for instance, it was kept in the French translation, is so much closer to what the book feels like when you read it. I really think the English title doesn't do the book any favors whatsoever. And the last one that I picked is a book that actually I didn't much like, and it's On the Beach by Neville Shute. Again, this book was a bit mundane, given that it's another end of the world sort of book. There's a bit of a theme here, but it seems such a mundane title. And to be fair, to some extent, it really does not misrepresent the story, because one of the reasons why I didn't like the book was that I found it a bit too mundane. And in that respect, this title, On the Beach, sort of reflects that. But I just think it's just not right. At the time, this book would have been a bit more shocking than it feels today. And again, that title doesn't really convey any sense of doom or urgency or anything that is really part of that story or is supposed to be part of that story. So that's another thumbs down for me. I hope you guys like this video. Please give me a thumbs up. Join our Discord. The link is in the description box. Let me know in the comments what your favorite title is, or perhaps a title that you really despise. And I'll see you the next time.